Well, early morning starts don't get much better than this, it has to be said. It is, of course, Glen Coe, and this route up here takes you to a famous feature, beautiful place called the Lost Valley. You'd think it'd be hard to lose something like that, something so big, but lose it they did, and now everyone spends their weekends out in the hills trying to find it, the Lost Valley. Hello, Lost Valley, are you in there? Oh well, doing my best to try and find it. It would help if I knew what it looked like. Hello? Well, I've looked everywhere. I've looked in things, under things, in trees, in holes, and I can't find it anywhere. Difficult to find. Oh, there it is. So it turns out it's not lost after all. Here it is, found. Should be just be called Hidden Valley, or something you walk up to knowing it's there, but then you're actually quite surprised it's there because it comes as something of a surprise having such a big flat area valley. But Lost Valley. It's a romantic name, and it makes you think. Everyone who comes up here, I suppose, it makes you think that you are making your own personal voyage of discovery to find the Lost Valley. It's a beautiful place. It's a really, really grand situation with very, very steep hills on both sides. Well, that's Bidjandambian up there. Pulling out, this is the Corrie head wall, and Corrie Gal. This is it's called. It's the Lost Valley is just its romantic name. And up there is the way that most people go up to try and attain Bidjandambian. They come up this, they see that run a scree up there, and then they headlock along the ridge. There's a Munro here, Stob Corrie Square. Some people will go up there, and then they'll come back and go up there. Wondering how it's formed. Normally when you see these sorts of things, you always think glaciers are responsible, but of course they are for gouging the thing out in the first place. But it's not how it's ended up with this beautiful flat bottom to it, because glaciers don't tend to leave flat bottoms to valleys. They leave U's. What apparently happened after the Ice Age, the last Ice Age, so when was that, 11,000, 10,000 years ago, there was a big rock slide from up here, and essentially all this debris here is an enormous rock slide. And I read something Scottish Natural Heritage had written saying that it's the biggest rock slide feature in Great Britain, apparently. But yes, it's all come down here much deeper than it is here. The rock slide doesn't just end where it's flat, it actually came in. Imagine this would have been gouged out, would have been like that, carved by meltwater coming down or whatever. And all of these enormous boulders, the size of houses, the typical size of measurement to inspire awe in people. Houses, buses, football pitches and whales, isn't it? Those are the four. But yes, boulders the size of houses come tumbling down and everything else and block the stream. The result being that water sort of builds up, and all the sediment and dirt and everything that's been carried down off the mountains all around here over time just gets deposited down here and settles in the water over time, and just accumulates lots of sand and gravel and just slowly builds up and that's why it's so flat with all this rubble. It hasn't been, typically you get rubble carried away downstream by floodwaters. It would carried off down in that direction, but once that was blocked up, there was nowhere for it to go. So the water's still escaping, there's still burns tumbling down that gap. Water always finds a way. If it didn't find a way, then this would have dammed and it would be a lock, but it isn't, so it is getting out. But all the material that's been brought down off these hills is now just left into this beautiful, not a meadow exactly, but it's an amazing place. If you know your history, then apparently the MacDonalds, who were clan of these parts and down in the Glen, used to use this as a place to store their cattle, their rustled cattle. Certainly nice and big and flat. Getting them up here would be a bit of a trauma, probably. But of course it's also supposedly where some of the MacDonald clan fled to on the 13th, was it, of February 1692, after the famous, infamous massacre down in the Glen early in the morning, when I forget how many were slaughtered, having played host to soldiers and others from Clan Campbell. The ones who weren't killed, the ones who weren't shot, a lot of them, it was midwinter, it was cold, supposedly it was snowing. Very cold and hostile place to be at the best of times, even low down in the Glen. So coming up here, which is quite high, would have been a horrific prospect, but perhaps preferable to the fate that was intended for them. Very, very tragic end, and a lot of them did die from exposure. As with many other places in Scotland, the landscape just oozes melancholy history. Very much, always very much quite a living landscape in every sense of the word. It's just tragic that such a beautiful place can have such a blood-soaked history.